Hi, my name is Bruce Wallstrom. I'm the owner of the Weeder's Digest. We're the lake and pond help desk, and I want to show you how I took my own shoreline from this to this in less than 24 hours and actually turned the algae into logs. So here's the story. Just this last couple weeks, the algae began blooming. This was a nasty algae bloom like we had never seen before. It filled my entire shoreline, as well as the fact that to the point where turtles couldn't hardly even move in it. This is my shoreline. I've actually got a total of 750 feet of shoreline on a peninsula, and so about 300 feet of it was completely plugged full of algae, and it began to compress by the wind and the wave act. This entire 350 feet of algae, it actually got to the point where you could actually begin to see it going from about 3 inches thick to eventually being about 2 feet thick. So at the same time we had this algae bloom, it was quite ironic that at that very day, a magazine was actually coming over to do a story about my business and the positive effects it was actually having on local lakes and actually on a worldwide basis. And so if you take a look, you can see exactly what was behind us in the photo shoot. Needless to say, we had to go to another location. Now, certainly at this point in time, we had a choice of how we wanted to manage this. This is basically what the Weeder's Digest is all about, is solving these type of issues, and we've done it for people literally all around the world. But one option would be to use a herbicide or an algicide, and although we do carry those in our showroom, it's our least favorite method of using it. So we kind of decided to do the more unique. So here's what we ended up doing. I got some of my tools that I carry at the Weeder's Digest. We carry lake and pond tools for cutting weeds, raking weeds, reducing muck. We've got automatic equipment, but one of the tools I used this particular day was my lake rake that it's got floats on it. It's about my simplest tool that I've got, my least expensive tool. Did a phenomenal job and basically went to town, started pulling in the algae and tossing it out there. I could toss it about 30 feet and just slowly begin to bring it in. Pretty amazing, actually. So as you see it all come in, it was just a piece of cake. And of course, you'd find all those tools available at the Weeder's Digest. Now, this is where it got rather exciting and something you've probably never seen before. Even if you're in the harvesting business, you've probably never seen this happen anywhere. We got a large pump designed, and we've been working on this concept for actually a couple of years. And we had kind of the perfect storm at my own shoreline. Went out there, and those would be approximately an acre and a half of floating algae, and again, not just on the surface, but down below as well. We began sucking it right out of the lake. I never went in the water. I never even put my waders on. This was a two-man operation. What I think would have taken, maybe 40 to 50 hours if you were just doing it with a rake and kind of your basic tools. But once again, at the Weeder's Digest, that's what we specialize in. In addition to that, we used my very popular, what we call our Aqua Blaster. We used that to help push it all right into the area that we were working. It allowed us to not have to go out there and rake as much. So what do we do with all this algae? I actually put it right up on my yard, allowed it to actually drain off, and what the most important thing of this process was that we emulsified it. In other words, we took those, what probably would have been, I would say tons of algae and phosphorus. And instead of actually having to deal with tons of algae, we actually had a pump that would spin it so fast that it would actually, what we call, emulsify it. And so it was no longer, when it landed on my yard, it was no longer thick algae. It was just the very basic components of what the algae was, and it also squeezed the air out of it, so it made it very small. Look at this is about an acre's worth of algae on my yard, allowed to drain off. And then what I did was actually go in, let it dry for a few days, and rip it up. And actually, if an individual happened to have a lawnmower set up for it, you could have actually mulched it. If I would have let it dry a few more days, I probably would have been able to blow it with a leaf blower. But I had some impending rain that I wanted to make sure that I had it off the lawn. I let it sit there for 3 days, and then after I got it all done, I simply removed it. Now, one other method would be that you could burn it, but in my opinion, if my goal here was to be good to the environment, burning it would not be the right thing to do. So if you can just imagine for a moment the incredible amount of phosphorus that's been removed from the lake, that's been applied to my lawn, that in the end result, from an environmental standpoint, from the footprint that I'm leaving behind, is so dramatically different than had I gone through the normal process, allowed the algae to just die, sink to the bottom, create another level of muck, another level of phosphorus and nutrients on the bottom of the lake. Instead, what I've done is remove the algae, remove the phosphorus, put it on my lawn, fertilized my lawn, rolled these up, made logs out of them, put an ad on Craigslist. Within a matter of a couple hours, I had somebody stop by for the purpose of being able to fertilize their lawn with high nutrient, high phosphorus algae that would be phenomenal in any garden. And then, of course, more importantly, on a personal note, that I can actually enjoy my shoreline, that I don't have a bunch of muck on the bottom, and that I didn't have to use any herbicides, algicides, or anything else that would have possibly damaged the environmental conditions of my shoreline and, of course, the lake itself. So here's an opportunity for the Weeder's Digest to, rather than just try to improve my own shoreline for my own benefit, for my own swimming, it actually was improving the benefits of the lake itself and the environment, and doing the better thing for everyone involved. So again, this is Bruce with Weeder's Digest. Thank you for taking the time to look at this little video just to show you one way that Weeder's Digest is making a difference on lakes and ponds literally throughout the world.